What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Slithering Salamanderscapes, and today we are going to do a rebuild of this 20-gallon tall. This was my first DIY build on YouTube several years ago. If you want to go back and check it out, it was a drip wall meant to house my red salamanders. They were in here for a long time, but there was cyanobacteria, so we got them out of there and into the new enclosure that you all probably saw several months ago. But anyhow, this one's pre-drilled, ready to go with the bulkheads and everything. And I'm going to try something different this time. And I am going to use some of this foam board that you can buy from Home Depot. I've used it in the past for some things, usually for filler, but which is why I'm going to use it again now. I've got this on a dolly. And I'm going to fill this in with foam just to kind of get a general shape. And I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do today, which is use the Rhodes Vertical mix. And yes, don't get your underwear in a bunch. I actually saw this on Serpa Design. So Tanner Serpa did this a couple weeks ago. I think he's been using it. He's one of the only people I really subscribe to. There's only a few people because I just don't have a lot of time, but he is very creative, and he has been using this mix several times now. So I'm going to try it. I've tried to use some cement and grout in the past, but I don't feel comfortable to use that with amphibians, and this stuff is supposedly non-toxic, so I am going to go ahead and try that. So props to him for finding this, because I had no idea it existed before he used it in one of his videos, and I am going to go ahead and try it. But anyways, I am going to drill through this foam, and I put the hose there from a flue valve because I want to control how the water flows. And this is just a general structure. I'm going to put this Rhodes cement mix stuff all over it. And so you just use some water. There's measuring. You have to measure the amount. You mix up this stuff they call ramp. You use it. Honestly, I would just watch Tanner Serpa's video. It's much more informative than mine for how you do this. But I wanted to try it. And so I'm just mixing it up in a bucket, just kind of like he did or anyone else would. It's not rocket science here. And then you want to get it to be, I actually had it a little bit too wet, to be honest. You want to have it a little bit drier, I think, so it packs on and it's not as sloppy and messy, because then it's easier to carve, which you'll see. This is the ramp stuff you got to spray on. It's like 50 water, 50% ramp, so this stuff sticks. And then I'm just putting this stuff on it. It's just really kind of slapping it on. And that's pretty much it. Now, I am going to do some stuff different than he did, but again, I have to give him full credit for finding this, because like I said, I had no idea it existed, and I know he really cares about his animals and does research, so I want to give him props for that, and and try it. I appreciate him doing this, because it gives us other folks out here that weren't as fastidious with our research to know this stuff even existed. So I am still a little hesitant, even though it says non-toxic for animals, so I'm not going to put any animals in. But what I am doing is I'm using a paint roller. This is what I've done in the past when I've experimented to get a little bit of texture. And you can use rock stamps, which are pretty big and expensive, but I'm actually using real rocks to get some shape and some formation into the rock. So I'm using actual pieces of slate here to get shapes, like the actual texture of the rocks. And I think it actually turns out pretty nicely. But, take a look and let me know when you're done in the comments. But I think it worked out pretty well. Just to give a general kind of, like I said, texture to the rocks. It doesn't look great right now, but what you want to do is wait a while. This is something else I learned. You want to wait. So I'm using a heat gun here just because it was so wet, like I said. So you want to have it a little drier, and you want to wait a little bit longer so it flakes off. Especially if you want to try to carve rock. To make it really look like rock. So I'm using a heat gun, a trowel, and then I'm actually really using a razor blade, and also like a shish kebab stick, like a long toothpick, to really carve it. But it was a little too wet. I'm not trying to make it look like mud. I'm trying to make it look like real rock, and I should have waited longer. That was my biggest mistake. So next time I try it, assuming I do it again, I am going to wait until it's drier. But anyways, and it's a long process to carve in what you think look like realistic at the time, or these cracks and things like that. And I think it would have looked better, honestly, if I had just waited a little bit longer. But that's kind of what you're left with after you carve it out. At least that's what I was left with. But I think it's pretty decent. It doesn't weigh as much as rocks. I'm still going to put rocks in here because that's just the way I roll. But you know, I think it's cool. It's different. Again, it's supposed to be non-toxic. I don't know. And these are the glazes. These are the same thing that Tanner Serpa used. I just bought the same stuff online from the website. And what I'm doing is I'm just spraying on in these cracks the darker shades, and then I'm taking just a wet, damp paper towel and just kind of drying it up a little bit. I don't want it to be too dark. You want to try to make it look realistic and just kind of let it soak in. And what you want to do is in between the colors, because you can get different colored glazes, is wait a little bit. And let it dry, and then go with the next. But I'm really just trying to get in these cracks to make it look more realistic. Like there's, you know, the inside the cracks is darker, just like with real rocks. And I definitely like the effect of it. It's pretty cool. It's different than some of the stuff I've worked with in the past, as you can see. And I'm also going to use a lighter color here in a second. It's like a lighter brown. I forget. I think it's called leather or something like that. But I'm going to try that. Yeah, leather, I think it is. And it's definitely a rusty color, so it gives, you know, as you can see, a little too bright for me, but I'm just going to lighten up some areas here within the sculpture and try to make it look a little more realistic. And the one I really use a lot, you'll see here in a minute, is called olive. It's like it's just like what it says. It's an olive color. I like that a lot because it gives, in my opinion, what really looks the most realistic. I think, in my opinion, is what you can see here. I think it looks like the color, at least. A mixture of those gives it the right color. And I was trying to match something like this, so it wasn't too far off. It's not perfect, obviously, but you know, the rock I'm holding is a little lighter. And you can scuff the edges and stuff to give it some, you know, some highlights, or you can use a little bit of white aquarium safe paint. And then just the same thing, I'm just rinsing it off. Again, I saw Tanner Serpa rinse his off. I would rinse mine off anyway, but I did let mine sit for several weeks after I did this, like 2 weeks. Again, I'm just paranoid. If I put any amphibians in, even at any point, I just, you know, I've just had bad things happen in the past with other materials I've used, or, you know, or didn't wait long enough. So you just have to be really careful. So this part is super important. But as you can see, it looks pretty realistic. I mean, it really does. And so I'm just being, like I said, uber careful. And the water's just draining out. By the way, I leak tested this. Everything's good. And here's just a dry run. I mean, that's not the way it's going to look, but the water's just kind of pouring out, splashing. I'm going to fix all this. But I like it. It looks decent. It's not as heavy as normal rock. So I'm not foaming rock in or anything like that. I am going to put a lot of rock in because, what I'm going for here is a rock wall. But this is just some fasteners to hold the vinyl tube in. I am not using a normal Fluval just because the flow was just too much even on low, so it's a little grainy there, but that's a Fluval for another tank, but 207. But I'm just using this turtle filter I had. I just changed the media out, carbon, things like that, and I'm using this to filter it. It's more than enough. I'm using some Fluval Stratum to have a nice rich substrate to try to avoid cyanobacteria, so that's going to kind of be the base layer. Just even it out. And then I'm just going to play around with rocks. I'm trying to find the closest rocks that I can that don't make this look silly, but it's not going to be perfect. You know, I can't get it perfect, but I am using a lot of these rocks because I want it to be like a rock face with a pile of rocks underneath, spreading some sand around, just in some other parts. And to be honest with you, this took the longest. There's a lot that I'm not even showing on video that I reworked multiple times. It's really just like trying to achieve what you want, and as you can see, I keep moving things around, and it takes forever to kind of get the vision that you really want with these things. And I mean, I think I did this for 3 or 4 hours, to be honest. And it's difficult, you know, to get, because I wanted a little bit of a land area that was kind of cordoned off from the rest of it. And it doesn't look great, but this is kind of what I ended up with. And I won't lie, I changed it again after this because it just wasn't, I just didn't think it was good enough. thought it looked awkward. So what I started to do is I jammed some of this filter pad because I want it to hold the substrate. I don't want leaf litter and other stuff and moss and all this stuff to get down into here, because if that gets all gunky, then you can wind up with cyanobacteria if the conditions are right. So I've had really good luck using the filter pads and just cutting them into strips and just kind of layering them in to kind of hold things in, but it'll still let water drain, which is great. So it'll kind of filter down so the water will get back in, but not all the substrate. And as you can see, I'm just kind of playing around with the rocks still, but it's like I said, it's a work in progress. It's really tough, especially when you already create a rock wall and then you put real rocks in there. So trying to take some stuff out and just have, I do want to at least have enough, like, the water to move around, because I don't want any dead spots, especially in a tank this small, because again, that can create cyanobacteria, which is horrible. It's like the probably #1 challenge I face with these paludariums. Adding just some more Fluval Stratum for a base layer here on the land area above the filter pad and stuff. You don't need a ton, but just enough, because I'm not planting any super large plants. It's really just going to be some small ferns and moss and liverworts. That's really all I want in here. That's the biotope I'm trying to create, just kind of a rock wall with water coming out, and that's it. Just fill in the areas. You don't have to, like I said, not using a ton. Just put a little sphagnum moss in there, so dried sphagnum moss. And I just kind of break it up. I don't like big chunks of it. Then using some leaf litter here. A lot of smaller leaves, particularly for this. I don't want big ones that are just going to make it look unrealistic. So just using small leaves, just making sure they're kind of all in the area that we want here for the land portion. And now I'm just planting moss and liverworts. I've had this moss and liverworts for about a month and a half in quarantine, and I do that because you want to have it away long enough to, for there not to be an amphibian host in there if there is some weird fungus or bacteria or something, or virus or whatever. So hopefully this is long enough. Again, no animals are really going in this right now, so it shouldn't really matter. But I'm just putting moss in, and I don't want to overplant it. What I did something interesting, I cut up moss, not like almost like a slurry, not using buttermilk or anything weird like that, but I did cut up some moss and got it wet with scissors, and I've jammed it in the cracks. And I'm hoping that'll spread over time, just like little pieces of moss here and there. And what I'm hoping is it'll kind of cover the most of the rock wall, which I think will be cool. But this is the fun part for me is doing this part. But I'm really enjoying it. Now I'm just going to fill it up with water, put some drops in to get rid of the chlorine since I've treated water. And then I'm going to put in some springtails. I always do. I'm not putting any isopods or anything like that in right now. I might later, but this is one of my master colonies of springtails. So just suck them up with a turkey baster. I'm just going to put them on the land side. There they are. There's enough, probably maybe 50, 60 there, maybe even more. And they will hopefully populate this this area and spread throughout and eat any mold. And that's a cool little fern in the background. I found that in some moss on my property out in West Virginia. And I did add some driftwood here in the front and some more moss. But I like it. This is the way it's going to look. There's some moss and liverworts in the cracks. I think it looks pretty cool. Looks realistic to me. I didn't want to overplant it. I think I have a tendency to do that. But I did add this piece of driftwood right here at the bottom that just kind of fits over these rocks nicely. And I put some moss and stuff there. And the hope is, like I said, over time, this will just grow out without me having to plant more moss, and that these areas will flourish. Now, one thing, I have a lid on this, and on top of the lid, I taped the lid So it is going to create humidity, so it will fog up, but that's what I want. There's ventilation holes, but that is exactly what I want. I want this to be humid because I don't have any misters in this one. Water's a little cloudy, but that will clear up in a day or so. I've done a couple water changes already. And, you know, I want to leave it open over there. I know you can see back there, but I want to leave it open so the water can circulate around. Sorry for the glare here, but yeah, I like the way it looks. I appreciate you all tuning in. This is a little different because I'm not really going to put any animals in. Not just because it's the first time I'm using this material, but also because I just want to wait a while. I want to wait a while and see how it grows and how everything goes. But I appreciate you all tuning in and all of the support, and stay tuned for some new cool builds on the way.